Two, one. Good afternoon, gamblers. Welcome to another live edition of the Dream Wager. We are here today on this scorcher of a Monday, June 28th, 2021. I am your host, Dylan, flying solo in the studio today, but I am joined by my right-hand man from sunny South Carolina, Joey D. How are you, sir?
Hey, thanks for having me. In addition to all the MMA we had this weekend, I got to say, Maryland's own Gervonta Tank Davis became the WBA super lightweight champion.
Oh, what? That punch right to the midsection aired him out. Oh, and then the backflip off the top
Yeah,
rope.
super athletic. You know, he knocked out Mario Barrios in the 11th round. And by the way, in addition, Vasily Lomachenko knocked out his opponent, Masayoshi Nakatani, in the 9th. So a couple knockouts over the weekend in boxing.
Oh, nice. That's good to have new champions too, right?
Yes, sir.
Attaboy. How was your weekend in other sports, in the NBA especially?
Oh, I actually hit on the teaser that I put out there on Friday. So that was a good one. I was riding with the Bucks, so you know.
And they won last night as well. I've been all right in basketball. The player props have been actually kind of good to me, but the sides and totals, a lot of blowouts, unfortunately. So that's kind of been hurtful. But yeah, other than that, it's honestly been very surprising in the NBA because I'm so used to, honestly, up until the postseason, NBA was one of my worst betting wise sports out there. That, and I think college football has been, I love betting it, but it kills my pockets.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you were actually doing really good in college basketball, so it was surprising to see. But hey, we're back on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
we're
is
back
very
on the roll.
surprising. What's your best sport? Is it basketball betting wise?
I think it actually might be hockey in terms of being in the green, but in my records, it actually might be in the MMA world.
Oh, nice. But you're our MMA sharp, so that's good that you're there. What else? Oh, also congratulations to Chauncey Billups. He got the head coaching job at the not the Timberwolves, excuse me, the Trailblazers. Jason Kidd got the head coaching job in Dallas, and Rick Carlisle got the job in Indiana. So a lot of positions are being filled, which very surprising, to be honest.
like
What
to
are
see
your
it.
thoughts about the head coaching hiring?
I like to say, I think that Chauncey Billups might actually keep Dame Lillard in the area. He was minus 3,300 to stay in Portland, and a lot of people are thinking he might go to New York. You know, he could wind up with LeBron in LA. But I think it bodes well for that, that team, that franchise, that organization. They need Dame Lillard to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously I'm a Knick fan, so I would love for him to come to the Mecca, but I think we need more pieces for him because he wants to win. You know what I mean? So I don't know if we're in the prime position right now to win, but I mean, it looks good. I mean, we're the second best. Vegas is giving us the second best chance for us to acquire Dame. So do you think that's a possibility?
I think it's always a possibility. You know, people want to play in the Mecca. That's like, that's where people go when they want to make their name. And I think it's a little harder when you're going out west and you're in Portland. It's not that well known in a sense, but I think there's always a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a game tonight, Clippers and Suns. Do you have a play on this?
Clippers and the Suns, I actually am going to be taking the Clippers here. I like what I'm seeing out of them, not in terms of the play, but in tonight's game. Because plus 185, not only is the money good, but I feel like they need this game to keep it in contention. I also am gonna go with the record I have. I have the Suns making it out. I mean, in like six, I think it was 7 games. Excuse me. Elvis, on the other hand, is going in 6. So I'm taking the Suns in 7.
Nice. Well, lucky for us, we have a guest on today that specializes in the NBA and NFL from NBC Sports Bet, the host of the Deep Dive podcast, Drew Dinsick. On Twitter, his at name is at whale_capper. Welcome to the Dream Wager.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming.
Scorcher out here on the East Coast. How's it over there by you?
We are having an uncharacteristically cool summer so far, so I can't complain about anything. Beautiful. It's been beautiful, sunny last couple of days. So
that's good. Where are you located on the West Coast?
Yeah, Long Beach, California.
Ooh,
oh, beautiful.
Jealous.
Yeah, I'm battling all the rain that's coming out of nowhere in South Carolina right now. So just inconsistent.
Yeah, you guys are getting you guys having a wet year, I've heard.
That's right.
Yeah. On Twitter, it says that you specialize in the NFL and the NBA. Do you dabble in any other sports like MLB or NHL?
Not those two. I do play a lot of tennis. I do play a lot of golf. And the standalone events like the Euro, I've been betting into the Euro markets pretty heavily just because these international soccer is so fun going on all day during the workday. It's a great experience to watch and bet on that. Olympics, I'm going to have a ton of positions on the Olympics for sure. Yeah. But I've found kind of as I go through the kind of sports calendar, if I'm really dedicating much more of my time to one sport or another, then the other sports tend to suffer a little bit. So if I'm like really heavy NFL in like October, November, December, like my NBA handicap suffers. I know it does,
That's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I found especially during football and college football. I loved college football, but I was dedicating most of my time on NFL, and I was like, why are all my plays so bad in college football? It's because I spent more time on NFL.
I lived that exactly. When I got started out, I was spending 90-10 NFL versus college. I was only looking at the college games that I was kind of interested in, like I was going to watch them, the big games, which are obviously the most well-priced markets. So I was betting minus EV into my college nonstop and scratching my head like, why are these losing? I don't get it.
For people just getting into sports betting, what would be your biggest advice you would give someone? Just stick to one sport?
Well, that's a good kind of general rule of thumb. But I don't think you really have to stick to only one sport if what you're doing it for is sort of the entertainment side of things. I think it's pretty important for anyone who's a new player to kind of set their priority, have like the right mindset about all of this. Right? Like anyone that gets into sports betting is like, I'm going to get rich doing this. Like, no, you're not. You're definitely not. Like, just don't like forget about that. Like, just put that out of your head. Like, come up with a new goal. And then if your goal is, okay, I'm going to break even, which is effectively saying I'm going to get paid to have a higher entertainment watching these games. Like, that's a great goal. Like, that's totally achievable. Like if you just want to grind out, like a little bit of profit or even break even, then you're adding to your enjoyment of the sport, and on top of that, maybe making a little bit of money. But definitely people who come into this with the perspective of, oh, I'm going to get rich, or people who get lucky at first, like people who have just like a hot streak right when they get started, and they're like, oh, I'm good at this. I can quit my job. Like, this is my job now. Like that sort of stuff never works out right.
I could say I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, I definitely felt that way too at the first. I was like, oh yeah, I can't lose. Like, this is great. I bet the Patriots to win the Super Bowl. This is easy. There's nothing to this. I don't know why people think this is hard. But
outsmart the odd makers.
Yeah, but in terms of kind of more practical advice, just if you find an angle, find a niche, like if you think that there are professional bettors out there who understand every conference of college football, they definitely don't. Like you can find some small conferences and just specialize in that. Just read the beat reporters, find out like, oh man, Bowling Green's quarterback got hurt in that fourth quarter. No one knew because the game was out of reach, and he's been limping around in practice all week. The beat reporters are talking about it. He might not go. I'm going to take Northern Illinois plus 14 now. Maybe by Sunday it'll be plus 7.
Them Huskies.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can really kind of find a niche, I think you tend to do better. That could be player props. It could be strikeout props. Yes no first inning in baseball. This summer that's a fun one to model. But yeah, I think for sure if you can kind of find a niche and find a specialization, you'll do better at the early onset.
For some people ask me how I come up with certain like a number for a game or a line, and I usually tell them, because I'm more of like an analytic type of guy with who crunch the numbers. How do you go about building a model for sports that you bet on, like NBA or NFL?
Yeah, it's an iterative process. You're always updating it. You're always trying to improve it. But I think at first you got to figure out, well, how do I, what do I want to do with this, right? Like, am I going to just build a machine that cranks out numbers that I'm firing into markets, or do I just want sort of a baseline kind of something to help steer me early on? In which case something like power numbers or, just something that's like a little bit more, a little easier to keep up with is probably a better approach. I think there's merit in both. Obviously, like if you're data science savvy, if you can set up something that's pretty hands off, then going about it in a kind of a real complex way makes sense. But I guess kind of keep for first and foremost, like don't make it too hard on yourself, right? Like if you build a complex machine that requires an hour of maintenance every day of getting new data and bringing in lines manually and, tweaking the weighting every single day, like, after a week or two, if it's not winning, like you're going to get sick of it. You're going to put it on the side. You're like, I'll come back and look at this in a couple of weeks. And you come back a couple weeks later, like, I forget why I was even doing this, like that has happened to me. Those have been some tough lessons learned, trying to build models, but for sure, kind of keeping it simple at first makes a ton of sense. Just getting good data, right? Like what data matters, like obviously you're not going to beat the MLB if you just go get batting averages and ERAs, right?
Yeah,
That's not going to give you much of anything at all, in fact. And at this point, if you're doing some kind of more advanced sabermetric type of inputs to your baseball model, like a lot of other people are doing that too. And so at the end of the day, if you just build a really complex baseball model with all the best stats that everybody agrees are the best, maybe you just make the same prices that the market already has. And so you don't have an edge, right? You're like, well, great, I can figure out how we got here, right? And so at that point, that's actually kind of a good problem though, because then you could be like, okay, well, let's find a couple of small knobs to turn here that are giving us an advantage once we have sort of the baseline pretty darn close. And for NFL, that can be like power numbers based sort of thing. You could just literally, keep up with, hey, team A plays team B in week 2, team A plays team C in week 3, week 4, B plays C. You roughly know what the market ought to make the difference between those two teams if you have kind of a consistent power numbers. And then if team C happens to be their third straight road game, or they have short rest versus other teams coming off a bye, small situational stuff like that, you can add into your handicap in a way that maybe you find an edge that way. Weather, certain player performances, certain tendencies, certain matchups that are tougher to capture with a numbers-based approach. All that stuff, kind of after the fact, can help distinguish your model performance.
Absolutely. And to that point, I like sometimes rely on the eye test, maybe to a fault.
Sure.
Let's talk about the NFL for a little. What did you think about the draft one? And did anything happen in the draft to make you like a team season total more or less?
My major takeaway from the draft is it felt like the rich got richer. Like there was not a lot of teams that I didn't feel like you really kind of brought teams closer to get to the middle.
Yeah, I agree.
And even more than that, like it's crazy how many good quarterbacks are ending up in the AFC. Like good young quarterbacks, we'll just like kind of break down a couple of drafts in a row. You had Mayfield, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson all hit one year in the draft. All those guys AFC. You had last year, you had Joe Burrow, obviously is going to be a good quarterback. Justin Herbert is going to be a great quarterback. AFC. Tua, maybe. AFC anyway, right? And then this year, again, Lawrence, AFC. Wilson, AFC. It's just kind of crazy how many of the top talent guys are ending up in the AFC, on top of the fact that you already have Watson and Mahomes. You already have,
Josh Allen.
some Josh. Yeah, you already have some guys that are like legit and good and not going anywhere anytime soon. And so it does feel like kind of there's going to be a huge disparity where you have all of these, incredible young talented quarterbacks in the AFC, and then the NFC is just Tom Brady and a bunch of everybody else.
Yeah. For me, I thought that in the NFC East, I'm going to switch to NFC East real quick. I thought the Washington football team did a good job in the draft. Granted, they already have the best defense in their division. I like them to win the division at plus 260. I know a lot of people are high on the Cowboys, but I think, like I said, I think they have the best defense. They got some weapons on the wide receiver end. All they're missing is Fitz quarterback, but I think Fitzmagic, he'll do a solid job. There's a lot of uncertainty also with the Cowboys and how Dak will do and if their defense actually improved or not.
Yeah. I no disagreement with you. I think that's a fair look. I guess the only thing I would add is, when do you want to make that bet? Do you want to bet it right now, or is there a better time in the season for something like that? Because I don't disagree with you. Like, Washington football team to me is the strongest roster in the NFC East. They have a weird lopsided schedule though, right? Like, if you look at their last 5 games, Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, like 5 of their NFC East opponents all at the end.
Wow.
And then similarly, like they got to play the Chiefs and the Packers before their bye. They got to play the Bills before their bye. The Chargers, who were pretty decent right out of the gate week 1. Tampa Bay right after their bye. I think you wait until after they play Tampa Bay, because I could conceivably see them like 3-6, right? And maybe somebody else has kind of taken a little bit of maybe somebody else is surprising in the NFC East at that point. And you're like, well, who cares? Like, they still get their last 5 games are all NFC East. If they win down the stretch, they win the division. Like, that's really all you got to ask. So I think maybe if I guess you could take some now, and they could surprise out of the gate and beat teams like the Bills and the Chargers and stuff, and that would be amazing. And then you'd be like in the driver's seat with a great ticket. Or if that doesn't work out, maybe be prepared to double down and around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you can get a better number, especially later on in the year, maybe towards Thanksgiving a little bit. But let's stay in the NFC and go out west. With the addition to Matthew Stafford, should the Rams be favored to win the division? And do you think they could go over their win total of 10.5?
I've thought about this a lot this offseason so far, because I think Stafford is a pretty clear upgrade. I don't think this is like a coin flip. I think he's a meaningful upgrade over Goff, and you have a really good roster outside of Stafford. Stafford, right? All the two best defensive players probably in the NFC, and and Donald and Ramsey. Really strong offensive line, great weapons for Stafford to throw to, and McVay's scheme is awesome, right? So everything checks all the boxes. Here's the problem though: they are super duper duper thin, which means even a little bit of bad luck injury wise, and things could go off the rails big time for these guys. And even Stafford, like Stafford's not, people will point to him and be like, oh, he plays through everything. He's so tough, but he gets hurt a lot. No one would say, oh yeah, well, Brady plays through everything. Brady doesn't ever get hit, like he avoids the contact, which is some of the reasons he can, you're not saying that stuff about him. But yeah, so I guess in the back of my head, the Rams are one of those teams where it's like, if Stafford is as much of an upgrade as I think he is, and if he hits the top of his, performance possibility, then they have a healthy campaign, the Rams are probably a 13-win team. Yeah. They're probably right there with the Bucs as far as kind of co-favorites to win the NFC. But all it takes is 1 or 2 injuries all of a sudden, or, Stafford himself doesn't, kind of hit his peak. And, this could be like a 7-win campaign. Right. So yeah. I think, when I have a team like that I'm bullish on, but I'm concerned a little bit about some of their injury stuff. I'll usually look to back that team pretty aggressively early in the season, right? Like you'll get, like their fair price in a bunch of these games will be a little bit deflated because people are like, well, this is a 10.5 win team. The market says so right there, 10.5 win team, right? But not factoring in, well, yes, if we knew all of these guys would be healthy for a whole season, this is a 12 win team, maybe 13, right? And so there's probably going to be a little betting value on the Rams early in the season when you know everyone is healthy. And then the other way to attack that is, there are some books that offer alternate win totals. So rather than paying like over 10.5 at even money, you can get like over 11.5 at like plus 180, right? And that way, if they stay healthy, they're going over 10.5. They probably are going over 11.5.
Yeah.
And you can get an even better payday, which in a lot of ways, if you're putting down money or using up credit for a whole football season, you might as well get a better payday out of it than just minus 110, right?
Very smart.
I'm looking at their schedule, and I think they could be favored in like about 13 out of their 17 games. It's they do have a tough couple games towards the end of the season, but I think I'm on the same side as you. In the beginning of the year, I'm going to bet them aggressive in the beginning. And then I'm going to see if they do get injured or not. And if they do, maybe I'll just hedge my bet because I already put a ticket in because I do think they'll hit the over. I think they're the best team. I still think, I don't know how the 49ers are favored to win the division. There's a lot of question marks in the QB. Is Trey Lance going to start or is Jimmy G your guy?
I can't answer that question. I'm wondering that myself. I really do. I really wonder and it's going to matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I completely agree with you. And for what it's worth, the Niners have always kind of had the Rams number. Like ever since Shanahan and McVay were there together, McVay has always kind of gotten the worst of that. Right. Like the Rams were clearly the better team. I think both times they played them last year, and I think the Niners won both.
It's a coaching.
They don't play the Niners until week 10 and then week 18. So it's way later, but I think we're on the same page here. They start out with the Bears. We know they're touchdown favorites at home. Then they go at the Colts. Bucks is a tough test at home. Cardinals is a tough test at home. Seahawks, a tough test on the road. You're going to get betting value in all of those games on the Rams probably.
Yeah.
And at that point, if they're 5-0, if they're 4-1 against the spread, then you've kind of done your job.
Joe, what do you got?
Drew, yeah, I know you already mentioned it, and I got to ask about my team, the Seattle Seahawks. They're plus 275 to win that division out west. The over/under for them is at 9.5. So I just want to ask you, how do you feel about those numbers, and do you think we have a chance in this upcoming season?
The offseason was like quietly concerning if you're a Seattle fan, I think. There were some moments where it was like, really, we're gonna divorce with Russell Wilson, really? Like it felt like that was possible, right?
Yeah.
And then I was never ever a Brian Schottenheimer guy, but in the last year, at least in the first half of last season, like he sort of figured it out. Like, this is what I can do with these guys. And then for whatever reason, the second half of that season, like the offense just fell apart. Russell Wilson's performance numbers dipped to like league average or below. And then they fire Schottenheimer in the offseason. And I was kind of like, oh boy, like Pete's like really going to lean into this run heavy approach. Not, the offensive line I still have questions about. Russell Wilson's getting older and he's not happy. Like there was a lot of warning signs, but then with everything I've heard, kind of whispers, mumbles, notes from mini camp so far have been really positive about the way Russell Wilson looks in this new offense. So I'm cautiously optimistic that it's going to be a fun Seattle Seahawks team again. They typically play some of the most entertaining NFL games, especially in prime time. So I hope they're good.
Hey, you're giving me hope. I appreciate that.
Once again, we're talking with Drew Dinsick from NBC Sportsbet. Drew, switching to the NBA, I don't think most people anticipated having the Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals, or at least I did it. Can you see them possibly making a comeback in this series and beating the Bucks?
If Trae Young was 100%, I would say they can do it. they can hang. They were right there in Game 3. That was felt pretty pivotal though, that they fell apart in the fourth quarter. Trae Young, obviously with the ankle injury, was a huge problem. And now the Bucks are one of the best front running teams out there. Like they can front run with the best of them. And when they got you going, when they got you backpedaling a little bit, when the ball's rolling downhill, when they're on like a 10-0 run, like they can turn it into 20-2 real quick. And then game is over, and it does have that feeling right now as you look at the way that Game 3 played out, and you look at what's going on with Trae Young and his ability to kind of move, which has been such a huge factor for the Hawks getting to this point in the playoffs anyway. So I think if I had to guess, I think the Hawks probably get it done the Bucks get it done in 5. And I think this -6 that you're seeing right now for the Bucks probably closes at 6.5 or 7. Oh, it's already up to 7. Oh, maybe there's some news. There might be some news like really
on Trae Young.
Really recent.
That was a freak incident that happened with the ref and him.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, bad luck.
Joe, what do you got?
Yeah, Drew, I had the Bucks actually being the favorite out of the East once they would beat the Nets, and they did that, and they're actually up, like we said, 2-1 against the Hawks. So I feel like it's their series to lose, as not only are they favorite to beat Atlanta, but they're the favorites, like you said, to win the NBA championship at +115. So my questions are to you: do you have confidence in them? But if they do let this series slip, should they question about firing Mike Budenholzer?
I'm not a Budenholzer guy, so if they
not a lot of people
if they went in another direction, I would be fine. But I will say he's at least got these guys playing, playing to their, playing closer to their peak than I had expected, especially against the Nets. But still, like even in that Game 1, like I bet Atlanta in Game 1 because I was like Budenholzer's going to do something stupid, like play Jeff Teague for 10 minutes, and of course that's felt like that was the difference in the game, to be honest. And yeah, and then so he learned, he adjusted. His Game 2 plan was spectacular. Yeah. And then Game 3, I thought he had a good couple of adjustments in the fourth quarter that really helped make the difference there. So I think the Bucks ultimately will win out. I think they go to the finals. If you like them at +115, or I mean, if you like the Bucks to win it at all, like +115 is a much better price than you're going to get in the finals. They're probably going to be -150-ish against the Suns. Yes. That would be kind of my gut about where that market opens up. So
makes sense.
I think it's worth betting them now because, again, I do think the Bucks come through this Atlanta series relatively unscathed. 4-1 seems like the most likely outcome. I mean, they're 7-point favorites on the road in Game 4 for crying out loud. They're going to be like they're going to be like 11 or 12-point favorites at home in Game 5 if they take care of business in Game 4. So this series is pretty much over. I think the Bucks go through, but I personally like the way that the Suns match up with them. I also think the Suns get it done tonight. I think ultimately they cover this 5.5 here, and I think Suns Bucks is going to be a really, really spectacular finals. And I think just the Bucks having gotten there, having won an Eastern Conference title, that definitely saves Budenholzer's skin for another year.
Thank you for that. I was just going to ask you, you for tonight, you have the Suns covering?
Yeah. I laid the 5 this morning. It's up to 5.5-ish, 6 at a couple of spots. Surprisingly, I didn't think it was going to get back to 6, but here we are. Looks like it's trending that way.
That's right.
Yeah. And just really, it all kind of boils down to Paul George has been carrying so much of the load offensively for this team, and that wears the guys down big time. And yes, it was cool that they managed to come back and execute the comeback on the Jazz. That was pretty special, but that took a lot out of them. And then I think the Suns are just too deep, too talented, too well coached. And with CP, with Chris Paul back at 100%, I think they take care of business they rally the valley, take care of business at home tonight. And I think we're talking about Suns in 5, Bucks in 5. And then, they both get to a nice little break before we kick off the NBA finals in what will be a really spectacular series.
Absolutely. Well, Drew, we can't thank you enough for your time. You guys can find him on Twitter at _whale_capper. Check him out on NBC Sportsbet, the Deep Dive Pod. Thank you so much, Drew. We appreciate it.
All right. Best of luck, guys.
You as well. Thanks, man. He's great.
What a swell dude.
Yeah, he had great info too.
Oh, man, you can't beat all the information he gave us there. I'm going to
Oh,
take a lot of that stuff to the bank.
absolutely, especially with the NFL and making a model, because I'm the type of guy that he was describing and making my model too hard for myself, and sometimes I can't even read it, making crunching all the numbers. But the guy's living the life out there,
Oh
Long
yeah,
Beach.
Long Beach, California, can't beat it. But yeah, like that's what he said. That NFC West, man, we got a lot to look forward. That's gonna be probably the
Oh,
most competitive division. And I
absolutely.
don't know. The NBA, I think he's right. It's gonna be interesting if we see the Suns and the Bucks there.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have a side on the game. I do think the Sun. I honestly don't know. I think it's a lot of points with the Suns right now. Granted, I know Paul George has been carrying the team, but all the games that they've lost, they've kept it relatively close. So 5.5, and if it, like he was saying, if it does get to 6, I
Look
can't
out.
blame people for staying on the Clippers at that point.
Yeah, and I
But
like kind of opposed him because, like we said before, he did come on. I took the Clippers money line at plus 185.
oh,
So
nice, you are taking them to
to
have one
win,
more.
yeah, one more game. I see one more game in that series, but his word of advice is not bad. Maybe you want to take it, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, my play for the game, it's hard not to take a look at the under tonight. Both teams are just exhausted from the amount of games they've played and just the little time they've had in between to rest. Each game, the total has dropped. And since Chris Paul's come back, the pace has slowed down as well. Plus the shooting woes from Morris, Booker, him taking the mask off, him starting with it on. It's just hard for me not to hit the under at 214.5. So I got it. It's actually dropped now to 213. I got it at 214.5 early this morning.
Nice.
So I still would play it at 213. But yeah, that's my play for tonight. So you're on the Clippers
I'm
and
on the
I'm on the
Clippers,
under.
and I liked everything he was saying about tomorrow's game because with a not we have question marks about Trey Young. Not healthy Trey Young just spells disaster for the Hawks, and I like
Yeah.
the points, so I'm taking Milwaukee minus the 6 at minus 110 tomorrow.
Absolutely. Let's pivot our way to the ice where we got game 1 tonight of the Stanley Cup Finals. Tampa's
We made it.
home. Yes, sir. And they're a minus 200 favorite on the money line, while the Canadians are a plus 168 on the money line. Total set at 5.5. Joe, what's your best bet for this game?
So yeah, minus 200. I shied away from that. So
Yeah.
I gotta oppose you because you have a ticket for the Habs making it, and you know Steven Stamkos is my guy. I like Tampa Bay. You know they're going to get back-to-back titles, even though we missed a little bit with the COVID year. This is what I'm doing in terms of the 8 o'clock game. I got the 2-leg parlay running. You know I'm
Oh,
sticking with an under in the first period. The under is 1.5, and that's minus 152. But I'm parlaying that with the total game under at 5.5 at minus 135. So that will give you an odds of plus 118. Not too steep, but I think you can keep this close scoring, especially if Carey Price plays up to it. And what I said on the last episode was, you know, if Tampa Bay won 1-0 against the Islanders, they're not giving me any confidence that they'll score a lot of goals against Carey Price. So
yeah.
I feel comfortable in taking the unders here.
Surprising enough, I am going to lay off tonight's game 1. Like you said, I do have my Canadians ticket 14-1 to win the whole thing early on. So I'm just going to try to enjoy the game. I do like the under 5.5, but it's too juicy for me. So, I mean, you could shop around. Maybe if you get an even number at 5, maybe closer to even or maybe plus money, I would take a swing at that. But I think these are just two great defenses and great goalies. So we could see a low scoring game here, but what does worry me is that the Lightning offense may find a little momentum from playing in front of a full crowd in Tampa. And they got to open up the stadium in Montreal. It's the Stanley Cup Finals. You
Come
got a
on.
crowd outside. It's ridiculous. But if the Lightning's offense does get it going, like we did see in Game 5, scoring 8 goals against the Islanders, it could be a long series
Look out.
for the Habs.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So I don't have a play. I'm just trying to enjoy the game real quick.
But
for
we
that
made it.
one. Yeah, we made it. So hopefully we get a good series. I don't want to see any sweeps. I want to see a good. Hopefully it goes 7 games.
The two
That would
best
be
words in
amazing.
sports. Game 7.
Exactly. Let's hit the bases. Anything on the diamond for you tonight, Joe?
Yeah, you know, we had a little late episode today for all you guys listening in, and I'm going to start our plays at the 8 o'clock games. So I got every game starting from 8, 10, and on.
Okay, I actually do too. My first game is the Cubs and Brewers. Do you have anything on that game?
Yes, I do. I actually like the money you're getting in the first five from Chicago. They're playing pretty decent, and granted, it's hard to play over there in Milwaukee because they're a good ball club. I think they're going to be competing into the Central throughout the season. But give me the money here at the Chicago money line plus 125. I'm going to take a chance.
Yeah, you could probably guess where I'm going. I'm going to be taking a look at the under in this spot, 7.5. The Cubs just played last night on Sunday Night Baseball. Now they have to travel from the West Coast to the Midwest. I kind of like to fade teams that played on Sunday Night Baseball. So that worries me. Both teams have really good bullpens. The Cubs have the second best bullpen ERA in the majors. I just think they're going to be a little hungover with the Cubs and the Brewers. They haven't been scoring the ball as of late. So I'll take a shot at under 7.5 at minus 122.
Not bad.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to have to fade. Hopefully they win the first 5-1, 2-0.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's see. How about anything in the Orioles Astros game?
Yeah, so that I like the under. Yeah, or the Houston Astros can hit the cover off the ball, but I'm gonna fade that and I'm gonna take the under at 5.5 in the first five. I think they could get some late runs on the board and not in the with the starting pitchers on the mound for some reason. So I like it. The under is 5.5 in the first five at minus 114. So it's actually favored.
Oh yeah, I like that. 5.5 is kind of a big number for 5 innings. You just hope the Orioles pitcher doesn't get smoked. That's all we're worrying about. How about in the Twins and White Sox game?
Do like the White Sox here. Got to go south side. They're playing at home, and I'll give the run and a half. Actually, excuse me, it's just the half run in the first five. I didn't take the full game run and a half. So the first five, half run, minus 102. So I think they're pretty confident in terms of who they're running out on the mound, Lucas Giolito.
Yeah, I think we're getting pretty good value here, too, with Giolito on the mound. Only minus 136 on the money line. You're getting plus 136 with a run and a half against the Kenta Maeda pitcher who hasn't been that good this year.
He's better at home.
Yes, and they're on the road. So, but the White Sox have been dealing with a lot of injuries. Jose Abreu's now out, so we'll see. But I do like the White Sox in this spot. Let's go to the next game. Diamondbacks Cardinals. Anything on that game?
I did want to take the Cardinals and their team totals. It's at 4.5, so I'm taking St. Louis Cardinals over 4.5 at minus 122. I think they're going to hit the Diamondbacks pitching, no matter if it's the bullpen or if they have the starter out.
And Joe, they're on the road.
And they're on the road.
So you just, at that point, these teams right now, until they prove you otherwise, Diamondbacks, Orioles, on the road, Pirates even, sometimes that you just got to fade them.
That's right.
I know you're going to be laying a tax number, but it's worth it, I think, at this point. And there's one last game. We got the Giants and Dodgers. Anything on this game, Joe?
My man DeSclafani's on the mound, so I like the plus money in the full game that San Francisco's getting at 10-10. Yeah, they're traveling over to the Dodger Stadium, but I think they had a rough outing their last couple games, the Dodgers, if you look at it. They lost that one time. They were the first underdogs against the Padres in a while. And, San Fran has been a wagon. So I'm just going to take San Francisco money line full game at plus 155. It's pretty high.
Yeah. It's just a great matchup between two of the best teams so far. But how do the bookmakers consistently keep disrespecting the Giants? It's ridiculous. I just don't get it. Yeah, they lost yesterday, but this team has the best record in the big leagues. DeSclafani, no relation, has been great on the road this year. He's 4-1 in 9 starts with a .84 ERA, and opponents are hitting 174 off him. He's been amazing. And Trevor Bauer, he's good, but his past couple starts have been shaky, giving up 3 runs in 4 of his last 5 starts.
He got smoked against the Padres.
Yeah.
He threw 8 consecutive sliders, and then Machado took him deep, man.
He like that. He just gives up hard contact. And, Joe, his spin rate has been down. Surprise,
Since
surprise.
the foreign substances.
So this is just another spot. I'm on the same side as you. I just feel the Giants are being undervalued and disrespected. This is a Giants team that's won 12 out of 14 series openers. I feel like they're get to Bauer quick since he's been struggling. I'll take 2+ prices here. I'll take Giants first 5+ half at plus 116, and I'll also side with you on the Giants full game money line at plus 150.
Absolutely. I like it. And just a little bit of news. I think we had our first ejection in terms of the foreign substances. It was a Hector Santiago.
Yeah. I think he was of the Mariners, correct?
Yes, he was.
They said they found something in between one of the stitching.
That's where it's illegal if it was inside the glove, but on the outside, it was just, he said, sweat and rosin, which is legal. So I don't know. We'll wait till we see the results.
And now I think they're making it. Well, they said this in the beginning. It's an automatic 10-game suspension.
Oh, I hope we don't see that from him. I don't think he necessarily deserves it, especially if it isn't a foreign substance.
Yeah, that's tricky, but well, it was coming. It was bound to happen.
That's
so.
For sure.
Anything else on the Diamond, Joe? Did I miss anything?
No, those are all the games we covered after 8 o'clock prime time.
Perfect. That'll do it for us. We gave you a lot of great picks today. Drew was an amazing guest.
Awesome.
Any last words before we get up out of here?
Just I can mention my record for the weekend in the combat sports world. PFL, man, I went undefeated. I had 4-0 record, and in the UFC, 8-5. So I touched a couple fights prior in the Action app. So if you guys ever want to check in on us, please check our Action apps, check our socials. We're gonna stay active on all that.
Absolutely. Joe, I actually had a good UFC fight night as well.
You
did. I went 3-1-1. What happened with that no contest?
Yeah, it was an inadvertent eye poke from Andre Fila, who was absolutely having the best performance of his career against Daniel Pineda. It's a shame that happened, but I don't think they should actually run it back. This is one of the few times I think that a foul has occurred and we don't see it run back. I think Andre Fila should get like a top 15 opponent. He deserves it after that performance.
Oh, and by the way, good call, you and Elvis. Cyril Gane, he dominated my boy Volkov.
Not a bad choice with Volkov. He is one of the more seasoned strikers, but Gane, I think, is proven, and we now have an undefeated heavyweight challenger, man. First time in a while.
Does he get Francis?
Absolutely, but Francis might have a fight before he gets that fight, so we'll see. But I think you can have Gane, hanging in the weight. So
yeah, I think he'll verse Derek Lewis before, but that's great. We have a week off for fights.
That's it.
Get ready for this McGregor Poirier 3. That's going to be a fucking showdown.
You're right.
But thank you all for your support. We will see you guys on Friday with more picks, hot takes. Everyone have a great week. Good luck on your wagers. Please follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at The Dream Wager. Please subscribe, rate, review. It helps us out tremendously. Be a friend, tell a friend, and everyone, best of luck.